from Broadcasting House here at UBC Nile Avenue in Kampala. The guests are already here, and certainly the panel. Of course, we continue wishing Honorable Abdul Katuntu well. He's second week into not feeling well, so he will miss this one as well. But he's watching and he's really following. I hope he will participate virtually. But let me start with introducing his colleagues, the Mr. Gobi Ramadan, and he is a lecturer at Makerere University Business School. You're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Harris. Glad to be here. Again.
Good. And all the way through Zoom from Burahia in Fort Portal City, Honorable Margaret Mugisa Muhanga. I should be catching up soon with her. I don't see her right here. I'll be coming back to introducing her as and when my technical team brings her right online. But our guest, Honorable Flight Captain Francis Edward Babu. He has been so many things, and he's so many things today. Flight Captain, he has been minister in different dockets in this government, and member of parliament for Kampala Central. Most welcome back.
Good evening, and good evening to our viewers. Thank you for the introduction.
It's always good to have you on the show, and you speak from the heart when I listen to you. So it's a pleasure for me to have you back on this show.
Thank you very much.
Good, good. On his right is Honorable Paul Mwiru. He is Ginger East MP, and recently now a member of the Alliance for National Transformation. He is a current MP, and he says now that Jinja is a city. He is going to challenge for that position again. Honorable Mwiru, it's always good to have you again on the show.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers.
And my technical team informs me that Muhanga is right around our corner. Honorable Muhanga, can you say hello to the viewer?
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the show.
How does it feel, you know, burning the night candles with our villagers in that part of the city?
It's interesting because I am used to it.
Are they doing well, poverty-wise?
They are all good.
Economically?
It's raining cats and dogs here, and it rains each and every day.
Oh, that's good to know. We will be coming back to you, but let me, we are going to start with the topic that is going to begin us in this discussion. Just breaking today, the confirmation now more officially by Dr. Kiza Besigye, who has been 4 times, I think, 2001, 2006, 2011, and 2016, has been running against President Museveni, and what, you know, in very interesting, you know, campaigns and contests for the top office in the land. Today, he has confirmed to his colleagues at the Forum for Democratic Change that he will not be seeking to stand again this time, 2021. What do you make of it? What does that mean for our politics and the campaigns? That has always been interesting, of course, with ups and downs. Let me start with the most senior here, Captain Babu. What do you make of a person you knew as a colleague, but also a formidable contestant or opponent to NRM that you have always campaigned for? Are you going to miss him in the elections?
Missing is a rather difficult word, but I think he must have a good reason for not coming back in the elections. Knowing the Colonel very well, this could be a strategy.
Oh.
Sometimes when you're in a battle, you retreat so that you can gather strength or some other reasons. But he must have his reasons for not standing again. And we must respect those reasons. Yes, you're right. He has been a formidable opponent, and he's done a good job for FDC. I hope they get a good candidate also. Because you must wish everybody well. It doesn't matter what.
That's good. You said you think he's strategizing. What in your view, you know, an estimation in your mind could be that strategy? Politicians always have something under their sleeves.
We've got a similar situation which happened in Senegal for many years. The gentleman who stood against Senghor for many times, and then he stood against the person who took over Senghor. He stood so many times. Also did the same thing at one time.
I think almost 5 times, right?
That's right. Actually, at one time he got out also, and then eventually came back and won again. It could be because of many reasons, and I think Dr. Besigye must have his reasons for doing it, and I'm sure there must be very good reasons.
Good. Honorable Mwiru, you worked closely with Besigye. You have just left, you have just outed from Forum for Democratic Change. You were a spokesperson there, so you know this party very well. Do you think Besigye's leaving at this time, especially the context that has been going on the last especially fortnight, that will he pick, will he not? And almost FDC not getting a candidate, then speculation, then of course we now see Ambassador Birigwa and your former party president Amuriat picking nomination papers. What do you make of this?
Well, first I want to congratulate Dr. Kizza Besigye for his contribution to the struggle. In politics, many people celebrate after winning, but wise people normally celebrate at the departure, because this is when you know what your contribution has done and how people feel about your participation in this struggle. Why I congratulate him, that Dr. Besigye has made a lot of sacrifices to ensure that Uganda gets back to the democratic path. And I think one thing which I think was not getting right, in my view, it was the distinction between being a revolutionary leader and office seeking. Because you see, Doctor, by his contribution to the struggle, we owe it to him as players that we ought to have given him his rightful position, if he took it anyway, of being a revolutionary leader. Because with rally all forces of change, it would be very easy to rally behind him and give guidance to the struggle. But he had got trapped into office seeking with its challenges, because like you'd realize that along the way, that's why you saw that even today when he was bidding farewell to FDC, there were some young people who thought that actually Dr. Besigye is the struggle. You understand? Whereas he had come to make a contribution, and to me, in my opinion, he'd like to take his rightful position, because there's nothing Dr. Besigye has not done. That's why, in my opinion, I don't agree even with colleagues who think that Dr. Besigye has failed. Because to me, I believe that it was the responsibility of all of us as players to put together our efforts, and if there is any win, we won. And if there were any loss or failure, it was not only on the part of Dr. Kizza Besigye. So I think what has happened today, it is a big challenge out of every political organization, that you must plan for the transition of leaders. You understand? Because the problem political parties have been getting, that after one being a leader, like for instance, FDC, it has term limits on presidency. Yeah. So as to where the president moves next, after being the president of the party, they think that's a sense of a time that he must get out of the party and must keep on offering himself as a presidential candidate, as one of the preoccupation. Whereas in my opinion, I think that's not the only role actually he must play, because that also, because first, when someone is a party, in a party as a party leader, they normally compete with their own political organization. That's why when he went to Alliance for National Transformation, it became a must that if you want to be a party leader, a chairman of a party, you don't participate in elective politics. So that you give the party the chance to grow. That is one. Two, that's why you realize that, you see, from even when he said, I'm not running, because people thought that he called the shots, people are waiting to hear what is he exactly saying. Is he not running or is he running? You understand? That's why I would also see a very big problem. But by and large, I want to say, in my opinion, I want to thank him for the contribution he has made. And now that the members must know that the strength of organizations, wherever they are, it's not the individual strength. It is the aggregate strength of all the individuals within the political organizations.
But just to hold you on to that, when you are talking about a transition or even succession within a party, let's use FDC going through this to project as a lesson for the bigger entity, which is Uganda. The uncertainty that held before today, is that worrying? If you compare to CCM in Tanzania, when Mkapa was coming up, almost everybody saw that he was coming up. And even when Kikwete stood against him, everybody knew that it was Mkapa's time. But in FDC or in Uganda, you don't have that kind of scenario. Do you think that that is dangerous for a sustained democracy or democratic credentials for our country?
In my opinion, yes. You see, political parties all over the world, most of them are founded on a number, like 5 factors.
Name them.
Which is politics, which makes policy, ideology, culture, and mobilization. That helps the people to know that an organization does not survive on any individual. This is to start with. That's why that even when we were in FDC, we appreciated the role being played by Dr. Kizza Besigye as a person. But we knew that we had to think ahead and know that there will come a time when he's not a factor, or a very big factor, or when actually is retiring in a political organization. So that's why we thought that we had to build a sound political organization as an organization. Society tomorrow, even if we say that my good friend Honorable Patrick Amriat is the candidate, or my uncle Honorable Virigwa, I said, now let's go. There would be a sound vehicle in terms of a political organization which would put behind a candidate. That's why, all along, we kept on arguing. That's not about the person. Remember when they kept on asking that, you see, it is Dr. Besigye who can manage Museveni. To me, I knew it was a fallacy. I knew it would be a strong political organization which would put behind anybody, which would manage, which would dislodge the system.
Okay.
And I think maybe finally, I want to salute Dr. Besigye and say that I wish him well, because he said he's not got out of the struggle. He's still within the struggle. He's still on course. But I think what now we need, maybe my advice, if you asked me anyway, I think you should also give time and support to those who believe in the elective politics as he concentrates on where he has gone. Because I've had some contradictions. Whereas he said, I've left and the party is having a presidential candidate, he's still saying he does not believe in the electoral system. You understand? So at the end of the day, those contradictions affect, because it's going to leave people divided. Because Dr. Besigye was a big stakeholder in FDC.
Yeah.
So people will be now wondering, where do you go? You understand? He said, I don't believe in the elective politics. It won't change the country. But at the same time, he's saying, I have a candidate as an organization. So I believe we need clarity on that.
I need Honorable Babu to make a comment before I bring in the panelists. That kind of contradiction, and especially when Mwiru says he is a big factor, my mind goes to the founding element, which is something that, a challenge that bedevils most organizations, including NRM, as we are now discussing. But before you come in, Honorable Babu, allow me to say that if you're following us, we are streaming live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and via UBC TV on Facebook, at UBC TV Uganda, that's on Twitter, and on YouTube. You can follow us on UBC Television Uganda. That's on YouTube. And then also on the Star TV Uganda, Star TV Uganda official. We are streaming live on all those forums, and you can catch us live. Honorable Babu, in a minute, the challenge of the founding father, so to speak.
In fact, I'd like to thank you very much. When he was talking, that's what came in my mind. You're talking, you brought an example of Tanzania.
Yeah.
Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania got independence about a year from each other.
Yeah.
The start of Tanzania was on the right route. Our start was bedeviled with all sorts of problems. In fact,
it got shaky immediately we took off.
Immediately we got independence in 1962. Things started happening one after the other. The multi-parties, which we had started with, people crossed the floors. After that one, ministers went in jail. After that one, the kingdoms were thrown out. After that one, we got a military government. So the history of this country is different from the Tanzanian history. President Nyerere tells you, at independence, the number of graduates he had, he could count them in his fingertips. So he embarked on training, not only graduates, he also trained leaders. If you look at, in fact, you talked about His Excellency Mkapa. If you go back in the history of how he was trained, and how they took him in newspapers, they took him in embassies, they took him everywhere.
Yeah.
He was a
Commission,
yeah.
Canada.
Same with Kikwete, with all these people. Now, here, we never had a start. And I want to tell you, even now, all the problems we're having was because our start was never correct. In fact, if you look at the history of our political changes, you will find that's where our problem is. So what you're talking about is actually a symptoms of where we missed the cue. It's the symptom. So what you're talking about, the parties having problems, the parties not having conflicts, we have never really started. So we've got to sit down. How do we build our parties? And I think instead of talking about, oh, we should have set a stack of cards. When this one goes off, another one comes in, and this one goes off. That one, we've not reached that level yet.
When shall we do?
My friend Gobi will help us. They tell us when there is a conflict in an organization, the management improves. What is happening? We're paying for the pain of starting. The startup pain.
The faulty start.
The start, yeah. We had a faulty start. Now we've got to get the right start. In fact, what we are talking about here, these multi-party things, we've never understood them to begin with. We copied the thing, came up here, started multi-parties on wrong premises. If you go back in the history of the starting of multi-parties in these other countries, they were started on a solid background. If you look at our background, it's either religion, tribe, they're on shaky grounds. So we need...
But ANT now is not based on religion. NRM is not based on religion. ANT is not based on religion. NRM is not based on religion. National Unity Platform has just started. It is not based on religion. DP, UPC, maybe that those two were part of the old, but they find themselves playing now amidst something else, a different configuration.
I like your confidence. Unfortunately, we are still bedeviled with those problems in all our parties. We're still bedeviled. Yesterday, I was on one of the programs and said, you people, you've been against propaganda for many years. This is a leader in this country talking. You people don't like us. You people don't like Muslims. You people don't like Catholics. We still have those problems. But they're inherent. They don't come out openly, but they're there. So when you get a head of state like the one we have, he has to balance even cabinet. Oh, we need a vice president who is a Catholic. We need this one. We need a Muslim here. We need a person from the East here. We still have those problems. Unfortunately, that is still the problem we are having. We need to find a solution to those problems quickly before we can get to the stack you're talking about. Nyerere, his biggest achievement, although he lost his economy, he achieved unity.
Socialization.
He achieved unity.
Socialism.
Yeah, he lost his economy. It went upside down, but he got the foundation, he united that country, and he got rid of all those vestiges I'm talking about.
Okay.
And that's why you eventually ended up with that good setup. Here you get a man called Mwinyi coming in, because Zanzibar, he wanted to strengthen Zanzibar as Tanzania, as Maungano. Then you bring the man called Mkapa, because the South you want somebody from there, then you bring a man called Kikwete, because he came from a certain area in Tanzania, and then now we have a man again coming from the Kagera region. All these things, very well done, and you must congratulate President Nyerere. He had a good start.
Except I also read, but maybe I need to bring Ramadan in. What you're not also telling us is that Mwinyi's coming also had a relationship with the balancing of religion, with the balancing of the tribe as well. That I read, and that's how Mwinyi was supported by Nyerere as well.
The major reason was Zanzibar, to strengthen the relationship with Zanzibar. That was the main reason. So these others could have come in, but that was the main reason.
Okay, good. The teacher, Gobi, looking at what's going on now in FDC, and I must say, it's interesting. We will need definitely to invite Dr. Besigye to come here, maybe next week, if his time allows, and engage you, the panelists, on why he's leaving, what his next plan is, because as a country we need to know. What do you think of his departure now, or the suspension of his presence or participation in the next politics?
Thank you very much.
And what will it mean in your view?
I remember the day Besigye emerged on the political scene, because I was a student, a very younger student at Makerere.
99?
Yes. No, it was 2000 when actually he came to start the journey. The 99, that's when he wrote. The
99 was that, yes, the writing of that we are deviating.
Yes. So 2001, we were among the younger people Besigye came and addressed first at Makerere. I remember vividly, because we were in Nkuruma and he came around, and we were chasing him away.
Why?
You know, don't like you. We have already our candidates, and Besigye convinced us. And I want to tell you, from that day, Besigye became a very big factor in the political climate of Uganda. The very students who were chasing him away carried him from Nkuruma, Kodrango, up to Wandegeya on their shoulders, because of what the kind of expectations and the vigor and the pomp Besigye brought to the politics. That is now 20 years ago. Fast forward, I think Besigye is leaving FDC at its weakest. He founded it and is going away when FDC is almost at on its knees, because even the younger pillars that had come to support it, like Honorable Mwiru, have left it. Those who are still there, I'm sure they are not very stable in their mindset and even the thinking of what they are supposed to be doing for the party now. Because to me, Besigye had developed into being the FDC, and FDC being Besigye. And that's why those many young people who were chanting there to encourage him to pick the forms today, were actually looking at that future without him, and they were seeing a lot of emptiness. So I think he's not living on his own terms. If he had left maybe 5 years ago, in 2016, I remember again there was a call for him to support then who had emerged out of NRM in the name of former Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi, so that they could put up a formidable kind of opposition against the incumbent. And
but as you are the lecturer, and you in economics you like numbers, and some people say numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, 2011, Besigye got 2.5.
Yeah.
2.5, which was, I think, 27%.
Actually, 2.05.
Something like that.
Yeah.
In 2000, and that was 2011. 2016, he got 3.6.
Yeah.
3.6 million.
Yeah.
He added 1.1 million votes.
Yes.
Let's compare with what the president added. The president added 300,000.
Yeah.
300,000. So if you're comparing those figures, would you still argue that Besigye is living when he's weakest? If we are going by the last election,
you can't go by the last. You have to go by the present.
We have to go by now.
By
but
now.
Now we have nothing apart from
no
leaders or maybe MPs.
Let me tell you that now there is a new kid on the block. Now the opinion polls in Uganda are indicating that Besigye is a distant third in the pecking order. And they're asking Ugandans, you know, in different opinion polls. I know we dismiss opinion polls in this country.
No, I don't. I don't.
But they are part of the research. And as you said, you know, numbers don't lie. Besigye is a scientist. He knows that for many years he has been running against the incumbent. He has been the only option against the incumbent. And he knew very well also in 2016 that the Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi, who was emerging out of NRM, did not have a chance of putting up a spirited and the formidable kind of challenge against him. Today, he realizes that many of these younger people had even started to abuse Dr. Besigye, incredibly, you know, unfortunate. And he's trying to say that actually you're a spoiler now. You are spoiling for the incumbent.
Okay.
So that's why I feel that he's not living on his own terms. It would look as if now he was running out of cards, running out of options. Because he's no longer that main challenger of the incumbent. We all know that now Bobi Wine, Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, is the main challenger of the incumbent.
Interesting.
Quite interesting, but the reality. And there have been calls among very many younger people who even at one time insulted him, you know, that why are you still hanging around if you are not, you know, a spoiler of the other. Okay. So I feel that that's one of the, so when Captain Babu was saying that he was strategically withdrawing, I buy into that. It's a very strategic move. Besigye is a very sophisticated person. He's a military officer. He knows strategy. He knows politics very well. He has practiced it for many years. He was actually the chief strategist of President Museveni in the early days. So So
do you think, before I come to Margaret Muhanga, do you think, even speculatively, that thinking widely, one of the strategies of Besigye right now is to pull out and let Bobi Wine take his head into the ring, given our rough
well knowing he doesn't
politics,
have any chance,
especially covering the entire country in 6 months with COVID and all that, knowing that probably doesn't have any chance, then he will get a battering in terms of really the challenge of the terrain, and then after that he can say, I told you, you should have.
No, he's going actually
what you think?
To retain his bragging rights. That's why he's bringing in the aspect of electoral process cannot answer the question which we have today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Honorable Margaret Muhanga. Honorable Muhanga, are you with me?
Yes, I am.
And you're listening well?
Loud and clear. Yes, please.
Good. Your take of Dr. Besigye's pulling out his candidature for 2021?
I think it's time up for Dr. Besigye
really?
to put up a spirited challenge again. I believe Dr. Besigye has calculated his cards, and he has found out that with the coming in of newer people, in the opposition and a lot of his members quitting the party, it's not really wise for him to lose for the 5th time and lose very badly. Dr. Besigye is a very intelligent man. And I can tell you, he has really built up the opposition in Uganda as one of the toughest candidates. And I'm certain that nobody else will garner the votes Dr. Besigye has for the opposition. As it may, Dr. Besigye is somebody who is extremely resilient. Dr. Besigye is somebody who is very consistent. The only problem with Uganda's opposition currently is that they focus their guns on just an individual. They keep talking about Museveni must go. So Ugandans, most Ugandans actually, are not dumb. They want a message. If you want to win an election, you surely must message him and the message. Now, Besigye had both. The only thing is he focused on an individual, and so he lost it. Kyagulanyi has the message, but his message is not clear. Young people are in bondage, you know, we need change. Nobody understands where he's heading to. So he may surely go very low. And I'm sure President Museveni is going to have them for dinner. He's going to win the highest number of votes he has not got since 1996. First of all, if you compare the two, you see, Ugandans are very analytical. I've been in this constituency, moving around and asking people what they think about the current political landscape. I haven't met so many people who will vote Bobby Wine. Most of them are disappointed, actually, that Besigye is not coming back, and they've been waiting to hear who comes. And whatever people think that parties are built by a spectrum of people, I think some individuals are so powerful that people think they are the party and the party is those individuals. Dr. Besigye had a lot of say in the FDC. And wait, his exit is going to make the FDC weaker. I don't think it's going to get stronger without Besigye. Nonetheless, there are other formidable forces. For example, Nathan Nandala Mafabi can take over from Besigye as a presidential candidate. He has been winning elections in Bugisu for a very long time, not only in his constituency, but even as the head of that cooperative society. Meaning he can take the bull by its horns and give it a try. Then we have Muriat. He has a lot of political charisma. And I do not know whether he has a good message, because Amuriat is in total activism. You see, there is political activism and politics. If you want to play politics, you have to drop activism, extremism, politics of hate, campaign of hate. Because if you produce that, you are that kind of politics, then you are just inciting people. You are not giving them a message of hope. Now, where the President Museveni, becomes on top of the game is that Museveni has had a type of glue that has held Ugandans together, from Karamoja to Kisoro, from Bundibujo to Busia. He holds Ugandans together. People feel they are in a country called Uganda. You may not find a person as charismatic, as liked, he has a personal liking, as humane as Yoweri Museveni in the near future. But you will find people who are totally hyped up about removing Museveni without giving people a message. People have a lot to live for. People have a future to look up to. So if you tell them Museveni must go, what is your alternative? What are you going to do for every bad thing you've been preaching everywhere? So that is the opposition we have, very weak, very disorganized. And now this current political prostitution. People are running from this party to the other, crisscrossing around the opposition. They are not even making things better. I told you the other day that it's like removing money from one pocket and putting it in the other pocket, from the right pocket to the left. You haven't changed anything. Unless the opposition is going to get together, look for one candidate, they should not be looking at positions. I'm even glad the messenger has left. And he has left a platform from which the whole opposition is building up.
Okay.
If they don't find one individual to run and everybody picks a flag, I am telling you, nobody will be able to raise even 10% of the votes in the coming elections.
That's
my prediction.
Okay, that prediction is good, except that it reminded me of my senior friend and his analogy, Tamale Mirundi. He says that a thief must never prescribe the type of padlock that you must use at home. Now, for Margaret Muhanga, an NRM person and mobilizer and leader, to be the one to prescribe how the multi-party opposition people should mobilize has reminded me of that analogy. But we need to move to our main topic of the day. Honorable Babu, you wanted to cut in some message?
No, I'm quite happy with what
You like what she has said? Yes, Honorable Miro. And then we move to our topic on the youth elections.
Thank you. I want to dismiss the assertion by my sister, honorable colleague, about the strength of the opposition. I think she's not at a vantage point to see the growth of the opposition. For instance, like when she talks about, she alluded to change of political parties. I'll give an example. That whereas, for instance,
she actually called it prostitution.
Yes, in our own language, or in our maybe
political prostitution.
Yeah, in our perception. But I'll give an example. Take an example of FDC, and then, for instance, Alliance for National Transformation. When we were together, we kept on arguing over strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
When those who believed in organizational and defiance as a method of work left, it gave FDC, which remained and believed in defiance, an opportunity to organize on the strategy they believed in. Whereas it may look as if to the outsider that actually it weakened FDC, in my view, it strengthened them. Because to left Honorable Patrick Oboy, now to steer the vehicle in one direction.
It is ideological,
yes,
isn't it? It is good.
Whereas it gave those who believed in both as a method of work to take that path, and we have been organizing in that direction. That's why, even when we went, we have been positioned to understand that there was a time when the political mantra was about Museveni, because Museveni had fused his political party with the state, and had made it look like the Uganda is about Museveni. You understand?
Yeah.
Those who came up with the political mantras of then, to see that it's about removal of Museveni by then, it was relevant at that particular time.
Yeah.
That's why we have to transit that type of politics to now to say, look, we are building the organization. What my sister fails to bring out very closely, because you're also focusing on Museveni, vis-a-vis can manage Museveni, actually we moved away from that point, some of us. We are at a point of wanting to see a strong national resistance movement organization, because it's a party which is managing a country other than an individual.
Okay.
That's why we wish every political organization well in terms of how they organize. So that is the country we put first,
yeah,
other than the individual we're actually talking about. So I thought I should bring out that very clearly,
okay,
that I'm not in the game of looking at the individuals,
yeah,
because that is causing many even to think that is these individuals, because of their patronage system, people think they don't think about the country. They have to think about the politics of survival. That's why, like when she went in, like for instance, when she said she was in the village and asking people, who am I going to vote? She expected people to say, those who will vote by secret ballot, that I'll vote Bobby Wine. You understand? So our research is very subjective, because the election will be by secret ballot.
It is not scientific research. Yes, Captain.
I just wanted us to conclude.
Yeah.
Very simply.
Yeah.
Eleanor Roosevelt many years ago said, great minds talk about ideas, average minds talk about events, and small minds talk about people. Let me today end this conversation with one word, and I want us to have another day with you. A multi-party system working in Uganda.
You missed our topic 2 weeks ago.
That's
We
right.
had that.
Once we answer that question, all these little things we are talking about will fall into place.
Okay.
Because, you see...
But Captain,
yes.
I'm sorry to drag on that, because I agree we need to move to the next topic. If you say is multi-party system working in Uganda, in my mind, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, multi-party is the bigger picture. That if we go back to how you preambled your argument, that we started on a faulty ground.
Correct.
Shouldn't we start from building the base?
Correct.
The base building starts from knowing that these are basic tenets of how governance should operate.
Correct.
So they should fall in place. Once they have fallen in place, then maybe like the NRM came in, movement, as a one-party system after mistakes of 60s, and we can say that the NRM running a one-party system, you guys ran a one-party system, which was to try and correct the mistakes of the 60s and 70s, right, and early 80s. But then we went into a multi-party as a superstructure of democracy. But then here we are. So what should come first, the chicken or the egg?
Even these Europeans you hear about and the Americans, at one time the multi-parties were not there. They came eventually.
I agree.
All I'm trying to say is that we must have a good foundation. And that debate, that's why I'm saying we needed a good debate on that issue. So that people can understand. These little things you're talking about, these are symptoms of weaknesses within the system.
Okay.
And I find it... That's right, correct. And this is where I am extremely worried. And that's why we pick on each other. We go to the small mind level, oh, so-and-so, this and that. And if we don't quickly understand that our problem is at the foundation level, all this, for example, I don't want to waste my time. The reason why we are experimenting, you see, all these things you are seeing, they are experiments. Can we combine? Can we do this? Can we fight this man? This is not the argument. The argument is the system working or not?
Okay.
And my simple answer is the multi-party dispensation has got a lot of problems.
Okay, good. I wish we had him the other week because that was the discussion. You represented him.
Actually, just fall short of telling us, how did we end up there? Who exactly is telling us?
No, by the way.
We are going to go for a break right now. I thought we would take 10 minutes on this starting discussion. It has turned out very interesting. We are going for a break. When we come back, we will start on our topic of the youth elections, the special interest group elections. But before we go for that break, there is a poll question that is on one of our topics, which is, the question is, does the virtual holding of NRM's national activities mean that Uganda is ready for scientific elections? We need your view on that, and we shall be reading it here in the course of the discussion. The question is, does the virtual holding of NRM's national activities mean that the country is ready, or Uganda is ready for scientific elections? And that's the context is really the pandemic that is affecting a lot of activities, and the new normal, as they call it. For me, I choose to call it the new abnormal, because there is nothing normal about being disrupted. Let's go for that break. This is Behind the Headlines.
Prosper, please go and also.
Some money on MTN Momo and dial *165# or use the My MTN app to pay for airtime and more when you need it. Stay safe with MTN Momo.
COVID-19 is a disease caused by the new coronavirus. Know the symptoms. They include fever, coughing, muscle pain, shortness of breath. What can you do? Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for 20 seconds or use an alcohol-based hand rub. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth with a tissue or flexed elbow. Discard tissues into a closed bin and then wash your hands. Maintain a distance of at least 1 meter between yourself and someone who is ill. Seek medical help if you display symptoms. Wear a mask if you are coughing or sneezing, or if you are caring for someone who is sick. Dispose of your masks into a closed bin and then wash your hands. Check trusted sources regularly for accurate information. Remember, the best prevention is to keep yourself healthy and follow these safe steps.
Kwa wakati huu, watu wengi wanapitia changamoto ngumu. Shule zimefungwa, ajira na maisha vimepotezwa. Fujo kwenye familia na fujo dhidi ya watoto vimeongezeka. Ni rahisi kuhisi umefadhaika, uchungu, huzuni, upweke na kuogopa yatakayotokea kesho. Tatizo la kiakili lililosababishwa na janga kubwa la COVID-19 linaweza kuchanganya watoto lisipozungumziwa. Serikali ikiwa inaweka mbinu za kupima, kutibu na kutafuta wagonjwa wa COVID-19. Tunatoa wito kwa serikali kuweka huduma za afya ya akili kwa kila kituo chake cha wagonjwa. Ujumbe huu unaletwa kwenu na kituo cha AfriChild na chuo kikuu cha Makerere kwa ushirikiano na Wizara ya Jinsia, Ajira na Maendeleo ya Jamii.
Welcome back from that break. This is Behind the Headlines on UBC from the broadcasting house here on Nile Avenue in Kampala, and we are discussing issues of the week, the most important issues of the week, and now we are going into the special interest group elections, especially the level of the commotion we saw in the youth elections. What does this mean for the country? Is this the kind of face that we want to have for our country? Is this part of the developing or growing democracy? In the studio, I have two guests: the Honorable Flight Captain Francis Edward Babu, former minister and a former member of SEC in NRM, and a senior citizen and very active political commentator. We have Honorable Paul Mwiru, who is a MP for Jinja East in Busoga, the new Jinja City. We have a panelist in the studio here, Ramadan Gobi, who is an economics lecturer at Makerere University Business School. On the line, joining us through Zoom, we have Honorable Margaret Mugisa Muhanga, who is MP for Burahia in Kabarole, or in the new Fort Portal City. We have been looking at the confirmation by Dr. Kizza Besigye, who has confirmed to his party colleagues at the party headquarters that he will not be seeking to contest in the coming election, which is the news that has been trending today. Now we are going into the youth elections. Let me start with you, Mr. Gobi. We saw a number of, commotion, a lot of fighting, disarming police by youth. and variously across the country. And elections, NRM has claimed victory. So far, we haven't got the finer details from the Electoral Commission yet, but we are getting feelers that the NRM has taken majority of the votes, but NAP and on NUP and then other political organizations also showing presence in some of the parts of the country. What did you make of the conduct of these elections, especially that it is it 6 months, 6 months to the main election, and we are preparing for that main election? Is this, you know, a sign that things will be not so good or things will be disorganized? What do you make of it?
I think one, it was a man called Adam Zawiski. He's a political economist, teaching, I think, at Harvard, who did a research that I have a lot of interest in.
What did he say? He
said that countries whose per capita income is below 1,000 US dollars sustain democracy for a maximum of 12 years. Those between 1,000 and 3,000 dollars sustain democracy for a maximum of 27 years. Those between 3,000 and 60,000 dollars of per capita income sustain democracy for a maximum of 60 years. And those who are above $60,000 sustain democracy forever. Now, coming to Uganda, and this actually feeds in what we have been having a conversation on.
We know our position.
We are a country whose per capita income is now about 800 US dollars. And it has been eaten even into by COVID. It would have reduced now in the previous few months. And you expect democracy to work in terms of multi-party arrangement, where people come and line up, is from ANT, there is one of FDC, there is another in yellow of NRM, and then they say, you line up, and we see who's going to win amongst the youth. Now, most of these things we see the chaos in Ugandan politics is because we are doing politics for the wrong reasons. If you went and asked people, especially the politicians like my good friend here, the MP, what are the main interests of the electorate that he represents, which he has to serve, to address to, that, and ask them for the mandate to go and represent them in parliament? If he's honest, he will tell you the kind of things he gets from there. Uganda, I think, is at that level or stage of development where it would be very difficult for you to have free and fair elections and have the electorate go to vote for the same reasons that voters in other nations which have already built their structures and capacity to a certain level go to vote, for. Many people in this country are still looking for a few things in life, and those are the physiological needs. They are still at the base of the pyramid of Abraham Maslow. And that's why I really get so perturbed when I see so many younger people running around with the politicians thinking they are going to serve their, their needs. Because I don't think the politicians have capacity to serve those needs at the moment. Because the tools which should be used to serve that, they are not readily available. When you look at, for example, these elections, the special interest group elections, and in particular the youth, at the village level, what exactly does that leader they were voting, what is he going to do?
To represent them?
To represent them where?
At the local level, at the parish, at the...
Of course you are answering questions
the
like...
ideal paper answer.
Ideal paper. But the truth of the matter is, these are just, you know, some semblance of a routine occurrence which comes every 5 years. Uganda line up. I was in the village. I was in Butambala this last weekend. And one of my young people in the household there was going to stand for this election. I haven't checked to see whether she has won or lost. And this, you know, touched my mind that exactly what's the purpose of this kind of virtue or routine which they are going to serve. Because let me tell you, when I look at Uganda, and this is what I discussed last time, I look at the numbers, I look at the facts which UBOS gives me, because it's the one with those eyes which can reach everywhere. Just yesterday I was looking at the latest labor and poverty surveys for Uganda, and I found that 77% of Ugandans who are in subsistence agriculture, 77% told the UBOS that they were comfortable with their lives in subsistence, and they wouldn't do anything to change that. And when they asked them how many of those would want to have an alternative job, only 13% offered to have an alternative job from the subsistence setting they were in. And now you are asking these people to go and determine, I don't know, which type of a leader they need according to political lineage. So I think, as I said last week, and I want to emphasize it, Uganda lost a moment which was going to help it develop capacity to have meaningful democracy. And that moment was the day we threw away the movement system, which was having everybody coming and working together.
Captain Babu is clapping for you.
Yeah, these are the seniors, you know. I used to be a young boy and I watch him on TV in Parliament.
But I'm going to ask him why then they took us into multi-party politics if they knew that the movement system was better.
Some people made a lot of noise and they said, you know, when you have Honorable Mwiru in the ANT and you have another Honorable in the FDC, another in NRM, you are going to create the freedom of speech and debate, and as a result, leadership is going to grow. But look at the results now, which we are having today on the table. Even individual merit has been, people are saying they are still going to look for individual merit. But because of the party kind of things which tie people within particular ways, because now Mwiru is not allowed to do certain things, however much he would like to do them. It's not allowed.
Because of party discipline?
Because of party.
Or party mandates?
Another one in yellow is not allowed to do something else because he's in a party called NRM. Once you come in, they say, that's discipline. The party doesn't allow that. Okay. And this has really failed us, and that's why you see there's a lot of frustration among the younger people because they don't see the future, where they are going. They are unemployed. They are coming from very poor backgrounds. The parents sell pieces of land which they were cultivating to send them to school. Then they graduate and they don't get a job.
Okay.
And they don't have a business. So this is what I think we needed to first sort out before we come to this.
Okay. Who is coming next? I think the Honorable Babu was clapping. Why were you clapping?
I was clapping because...
You liked his point?
No. Because of the bad start we had in the 60s, and the young people who came after brought something called the movement system. A movement system that did not have sectarianism, went to the village level, built leaders all the way up to the national level. We did not need parties because everybody participated in this country. You started at a village level, you went to the parish level, you went to the county level, you went eventually to the district level, eventually you went to what we called then the NRC. And believe you me...
That's how you came to
yeah, it produced fantastic
right?
leaders. There were no scruples about the leaders who came from this system. And there was nobody who told you you can be leader or not, because the system actually sieved you out. And you believed that system. It worked. Now, what has happened hitherto is that we went and copied. To me, I keep saying that the multi-parties we're having here, it's a copycat. We are copying other people. Yeah, and yes, that's right. With the modern scientific methods. What has hitherto happened? And you can hear him. In America, they do this. In Britain, they do this. In France, they do this. And you know, the people who talk about this, they don't even realize that the French democracy, the British democracy, the American, they are not the same. So is the Chinese. They're happy with their democracy. So we have a little bit of a problem. This movement was fantastic because people were coming up. And by the way, you talk about opposition, that movement the opposition was vibrant within the
opposition
movement.
Of ideas.
Yes.
It was not of groups.
No. People would come up and talk about issues. In fact, a few minutes ago, I was about to talk about civic education. And when I heard Professor Gobi, Dr. Gobi, talking about the things he talked about, that is the kind of civic education we want. We want to understand. We want to penetrate. Even at now, I'm learning. You see? Now, the movement system gave us civic education. We were learning. And unfortunately, because of the so many forces, and because of our elite groups we have in this country, I will go back, I was working in Nigeria. Yeah. And Olusegun Obasanjo, who was then the military head of state, was handing over power to a guy called Shehu Shagari. And he told them, I'm giving this back to you, but I want to warn the elite of this country. You have a tendency to stir problems. You stir problems. And when the problems have come to the max, you jump on the aeroplane and you go where you have put your loot. In other words, I want you to know when you come back to this country, the poor people might know better. And I want to warn some of these politicians. These things you saw yesterday is a result of us, including myself. We are inciting these kids. And unfortunately, we are doing it, we ourselves, the leaders, we demonstrate. And I'll give you an example. There are leaders who leave their home and they say, today I'm going to show the policemen how tough I am so that I can get famous. There was a young lady here, slapped a policeman, held him, slapped him. After that, they showed the media, showed the picture her being arrested. They did not show the picture when she was slapping the policeman. There is a tendency now.
So even we, the media, are culpable.
We are. We disturb the policemen, we push them, but the picture they show is when he's arresting you. They don't show the picture when you are throwing the stone or when you are beating him up. Now, all that said and done, and I want to beg all our politicians, whenever you escalate this kind of thing, this kind of fighting, it comes back to you. Because eventually, it will become a habit and will come with a culture of violence. And then every time you say, it is the police. But you don't tell them that actually you sat down and say, when you go for that meeting, if you are not happy, fight. We don't show that bit. This is all unfortunate. I want to appeal.
But before you appeal, using your earlier argument, you referred to symptoms of bigger problems. Could this be the same application?
That's one of the symptoms. It is a symptom of indiscipline created by us. And by the way, the indiscipline is not only in the opposition, it's also in the NRM. I don't want you to think when I'm talking here, I do not point fingers.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
All the parties have got indiscipline. And that indiscipline we must fight. But we cannot allow, and we should not allow, this kind of indiscipline to continue in our political landscape. Okay. It's totally wrong.
Good. Honorable Miro, is it a symptom of a bigger problem? Are the youth especially, because the cameras showed mostly the youth. And funny enough, I mean, in the past, you would think when you're talking about rowdiness, you know, commotion, radicalism, and all these things, you would think boys, men, young boys, and all that. But this time, the women, ladies, the young ladies especially, you see them jumping at each other, at each other's throats, for a political office, for support. Where is this going to end? Where did this start from?
Thank you. First, I don't belong the same school of thought about, like my colleagues, about multi-party democracy. For me, I think we have had an opportunity to grow multi-party democracy. Our colleagues have a handover, like my good friend, Honorable Babu, of the single system, one-party state, where they would cling on patronage as a way of survival. At the formation of most of these political parties, there were young people, or people, members of organizations, like for instance in FDC, I knew that we needed to help FDC outgrow the individual. And that's why, whenever we would raise some of these issues, those who don't know where it would lead, thought that, you see, maybe we're just disrespectful, you understand, we don't like individuals, and I had the overtone that, you see, we need strong individuals. We don't need strong institutions. You understand? But of course, for me, I knew that we needed stronger institutions. And as a result, now people have known, for instance, most of these political parties, that you see, when you have stronger institutions, you will help grow multi-party democracy. But even my good friend here, Honorable Babu, will tell you that whereas I like the way when he's talking, very passionate, but when it comes to the practice, it will allow the individual tendencies to grow, even his own organization, though he has been trying from what I saw. It's not also true. Because you see, if I'm to quote my good friend Odongtho, he normally says you cannot give what you don't have. So if you don't practice governance issue within your own organization, you have no discipline as an organization, you can't give it to the country. There will be chaos. You understand? So to me, I wanted also to know, that's why the framers of the Constitution, I think where Honorable Babu was, they were very clear. They allowed political parties in the Constitution, but they went ahead to come up with a law under the political party and other organizations act, requiring them to act democratically and practice good governance. So what remains actually is the practice. For instance, you asked whether there was any benefit. My friend here asked Mr. Gobi of these youth councils. Youth councils were natural beds for leadership in this country. Myself speaking, I'm a product of the youth council. That's why when we were elected, actually we never heard of the facilitation in youth structure. No. We went, like for the first in Jinja, I was the secretary of the district, and Honorable Zake was the chairperson. He was NRM, I was in opposition. But once we met together,
Zake the Chibedi.
The Chibedi now, the ambassador.
The ambassador.
Once we met and we were electing leadership, based on competence. And I can bet that most of the young people who are in the youth structures as of then, and most of them are leaders in this country. Because these youth councils were nursery beds for leadership. And even the president, or even whoever was interested to know, he would tap into this youth council to know who is there as a leader, because that was a platform for many. But going back to the question you asked about the election as they were, first starts with the population. You see, an indisciplined population always loses out an opportunity. You see, when you look at the law, when it comes to registration, this has been applying even to many people. They're supposed to register as voters. They don't. The Electoral Commission keeps on telling them to go and register. They keep on not wasting time in very many, and I don't go to register. That's why at my home, when you come to see me, I check the register. Are you a voter? Even at my office, you don't get service when actually you don't go to register. Someone was threatening that we are waiting for. I said, but you're not a voter. Please don't waste my time. So what happened? The number of people did not turn up to go and vote. Despite the Electoral Commission kept on also extending. They didn't go to vote. Similarly, the law as is, it says that even for you to register under the youth, to be on the youth register, you must have turned up the Electoral Commission and registered as a voter. What did most youth do? They registered as voters in the national register. They did not go for registration under the youth, in the formation of the youth register. Because the law says you must apply to become a voter on the youth register. So as a result of that, many youth who appear on the national voter register as voters don't form part of the youth register, which was compiled and displayed. Reason, whenever they were displaying, they didn't go to register, they didn't check even at display. That alone, in my opinion, was indiscipline on their part.
So doesn't that now confirm the fears that these same characters will come on the day of the main voting when they have not been registered, and they will demand to vote, and causing more commotion?
Actually, it is the opposite. Because I picked interest in the election. For instance, to give an example of Oboja, it has 570 voters. When you check on the register, those below 18 are 300. Sorry, those are from the youth below 35. They are 300. But when it came to the youth register, it was not ranging to those numbers, meaning that many didn't go to register under the youth. But when it comes to the general election, there will be voters and they will turn up to vote. Because they exist. Because they didn't go there. You see, the rationale is that the law is couched in a way that for you to be a voter, you must apply to the commission to vote. Because when they were making the register, retiring the old register, whoever was on the old register was actually made a voter by virtue of that. But for you to go on the youth register, you must go and register. And you go through the process the way it is. When they display, you must go, that's whether you're on the register. When you don't go, then you are not a voter.
Okay.
So that one also was, to some extent, the cause of the violence. Because some youth stand up and some were youth. It shows his national ID. I'm 28, but I'm not on the register. So I was asking some, but by the way, wait a minute, are you on the other register? They're saying, no, but I'm a youth. How saying, but you see, the law says that you must be on the register. You understand? Because it was very difficult, because to be very sincere, many of them don't even participate. It was out of this excitement of we go and vote that actually turned up. That was one issue. So that would call for even now either an amendment in the law or an administrative action by the Electoral Commission. Because if you go to NIRA, the machines we have, they can clearly pick who will be a youth by the time of voting, and that should form part of the register.
Okay.
That was one issue. Then the other issue I found very interesting is government. My good friend that talks about discipline. They are unserious as a party. We passed money in Parliament to buy masks for everybody. they were posturing that they were going to give out masks to everybody. What happened in the morning? The professor was saying you must observe the standard operating procedure. One of the requirements is a mask. In my place, they have not given out masks.
And social distancing.
So they were telling people, don't turn up to vote. Do you know what they had done? They had given money to their people, and they had bought the mask for themselves. So that early morning, people were calling me, hello, they have refused us to vote because we are violating. And the police was chasing them away. What is
you
your
don't
mask?
have a mask, don't
So I was asking them that, did you give out the mask government promised? There were actually no mask. So, and they, of course, we had to help in some areas to buy masks for those youths who wanted to go and participate. So now, the question now is, the win. Yes, actually, the
politicization of COVID.
So now the question is, if they are claiming of a win that they won, when they bought masks for their people, what is to them where they were? So what about those youth who are disenfranchised by not having masks, go and participate in the process? So when we looked at all these things, because for me I know, there are far-reaching effects of all these type of things.
Yeah, I agree.
Because many were precluded from participating in the process, they don't have masks. You understand? That's why you saw them in some places. And in some areas, the police was overpowered. Because like you see, I was monitoring, there was somewhere where the person was asked, now, what do we do? Because almost people
asking.
On the other side, they didn't have masks. In those who came from those came from the opposition, but the police officer was saying, look, there must be masks. So I told the police officer that, you know what you have to do now? Get in touch with the police, assess the situation, and take a decision. Because people were calling me, please come and help. I said, no, I will not come and help, because I am not the organizer of that election. You call the Electoral Commission. But at the end of the day, you realize that as a leader, you have a duty to give guidance even to your own people. But there was a problem. So at the end of the day, the question of the register the question of the mask, the question of the sensitization. You see, these issues, in my opinion, must be dissected and we find a solution to it. Because for us, as Alliance for National Transformation, we can talk about these issues of concern, but we focus on what we can do next time. Because we want to build a Uganda which will work for my friend Francis Babu, for my sister Honorable Mohanga, for even for everybody.
For everybody.
So at the end of the day,
for everybody.
we cannot look at these mistakes that there's someone who's going to take advantage of them and he boasts. That we see when you look at the statistics, we have, to me, those
the statistics they have just sent me. They have actually just sent me. Captain Babu, I beg your indulgence. You will come after Margaret. Let Margaret also give us a glimpse into perspective into what happened in Toro. Yes, she's on the ground and as wonderfully done as. These are some of the snippets of the statistics from the youth. The village chairperson elections results show the NRM got 79. These are the summaries. NRM 79.06%. Independent 14.82%. The independent coming second. National Unity Platform got 2.3%. And then FDC 1.89%, and then UPC 0.9, DP 0.89, and 0.03, and then the persons with disabilities. They now have a different reference. They now call it persons with different abilities. The village chairperson election results show NRM scored 84.84%. Independent scored 13.01%. Now we are coming back to the issues that Honorable Babu and Gobi agree on, that it seems this individual merit the other hangover is real, because independent is coming number 2. And then here the third is hard to tell. FDC is 0.98, DP 0.19, UPC 0.70, NAP, the National Unity Platform, 0.28, and ANT, sorry, is 0.01, but independent 13%. Then the older persons, village chairperson elections, NRM 86.93. I beg your pardon, 86.93%. Independent is 10.18%. Oh, go forward is here. 0.0%, GEMA 0.0%, PPP 0.0%, ANT 0.01, NUP 0.33, UPC 0.88, DP 0.59, FDC 1.04. Yes, these are the summaries of the national outlook. We are winding up on this topic, but Honorable Margaret Muhanga on Zoom, make a comment on the conduct of the conduct and character of the special interest elections. That from what you saw, what does it portend going forward into the main elections soon around the corner? What did you see from the ground?
I haven't really participated that much in these youth elections, but I can tell you that across the country and at all levels, youth elections have always been violent. Youth elections are always mad with violence, even at parliamentary level. You remember the last elections when there were 2 generals, not actually generals, was the other one, Rwamirama is not a general. General
Both of them are generals.
Tumukunde and Rwamirama's son were running for elections.
Oh.
And General Tumukunde was shot in the leg here in Fort Portal. That election happened here in Fort Portal. So youth elections, I don't know. People come when they are so hyped up. It's like the election is the end of the world. And also remember that even the turn-up, especially in upcountry areas, but even in Kampala, the winner is having 11 votes and the second runners-up has only 4 votes or 5. I think the turn-up was also very low. Then the other one is what Paul Mwiru has been talking about, that a lot of people didn't know that they had to register. Even if you are a youth, you don't simply go to vote in these elections. You need to have registered as a youth. Now, a lot of people don't check their status before showing up at a polling station, especially the special interest groups. I don't think the other special interest group elections had violence, especially disabilities, the elderly. They are always calm and composed. But youth elections in Uganda have always been violent. There is no time when they have. Now we are going to vote, even NRM is going to vote. You will find we are voting all the leagues, the women, the elderly, the disabled, but the youth will always come and raise chaos at polling stations. But this shows you what will happen to our election. Because me, this is why I have picked interest. I've been seeing it on social media the whole day. NRM has got 84%. What does that tell you? That the biggest number of people in the villages are NRM. Otherwise, you would have seen other...
Honorable Margaret, does it also mean, because if majority who turn up are NRM and then there is violence, does it also mean that the NRM are the most violent?
No, not the NRM. I told you, youth across the spectrum, whichever party they belong to, are violent. Even if it is FDC, it's just that other parties don't have elections. If those other parties were having elections for their lower cadres and they are having elections in special interest groups, they would have seen this. But you know, for them, it's a selection. They just pick somebody and say, you go and run here and there.
Honorable Mwiru, your colleague Honorable Mwiru is asking, how about the masks that were used to stop people from voting in some areas, and that the masks were supposed to be distributed by government?
I actually also wonder the same thing. I don't know where the masks disappeared. They must have been swallowed by a whale in a lake. Because everybody has been waiting and asking us where the masks are, and we really don't have answers. And some MPs have tried to provide masks, but we don't have the capacity that the government has. So we provide a few, and a lot of people are left without masks, and yet we've been told nobody should show up in a public place without a mask. And it's a prerequisite for you to go to the market, to go to the hospital, to go to a bank. Like I went to the bank, and I had my mask in the bag. I was told I cannot enter. I had to wear a mask to enter bank. And so those restrictions are very important. And given that the COVID cases are increasing in Uganda, and they are increasing actually everywhere, even here in Fort Portal here today, 5 people have been admitted and have tested positive.
Thanks.
So we need to be more careful.
Thanks, Honorable Margaret. Honorable Babu, wind up on this topic of the special interest elections. You had something you wanted to throw in.
Yeah. First and foremost, let us separate two things. Let's separate an election where a candidate produces posters, produces all sorts of things to try and get a vote, and that candidate should be able to afford a mask. Now, when you bring in this drift about government, which is very unfortunate that they have not got these, whatever they have not got this, then you are losing the argument. Because the argument is that we are required to have a mask to go for an election. You are a candidate. You are supposed to have certain things. So if the government has not brought it, that's fine. Go for the election and follow the rules. That's point number one. Point number two, I want to make this very clear. I want to make this point very clear. When he was talking,
you ask him if he concedes.
I don't give you information.
No, let me finish. I don't want your information.
I'll give you.
The other point that I wanted to bring up, movement was not a one-party state. A one-party state is like now, if all parties are closed and we remain with one party. But a movement was for all the country, regardless of your being. Now, a lot of these, I call them interest groups that like parties, tend to give a false information that movement was a one-party state. It was not. It was something that came out of our history. A history that had been failed by the same parties. And I'll go back. In 1962, we had multi-parties. 1 year later, they crossed the floor and formed one party. They went on up to 1966. In between, there was a lot of wars. We ended up with one party until 1969. So it is the parties that killed multi-parties in this country. And we must put them in the dock and tell them, you have spoiled this country. And the reason movement came up.
And you would be in the same dock?
No, I would not be, because I do not believe, by the way,
because you belong to NRM.
I am a strong person who wants to build the parties, and at a certain point in the future, come up with the multi-parties which suit us in this country.
Okay.
But we must build them. They will not come out of the sky. They will not come out of a hat like a rabbit. This is not magic. This is serious business. Okay. And this is where our problem. I want to tell Mr. Muiru, in fact, I'm very happy because he said when we were youth, we went for this. That was the movement that brought it. And I would like him to thank us because we brought the youth system. Now, the parties then did not have them. They had youth running after vehicles carrying candidates. But here, we brought up something called the youth system so that we could have youth, we could have women, PWD, and all this came out of the movement system. Therefore, people like me should appreciate when people do something. And I am still saying, and I'll use this expression, and I end this. Professional photographers. There was a professional photographer and an amateur photographer. The professional takes the moment and thinks about it after. The amateur thinks about the moment, and the moment is gone. What has happened here, a lot of these people are amateurs who have let the moment go. We should have taken the moment.
Okay.
And the moment is the movement.
Okay, good. Thanks, Babu. Muiru, as you respond briefly to what you had wanted to say, someone called Osborne, I think from Barara, says, Charles, please inform Honorable Muiru that in my village in Chehabure, there was no voting because it was NRM that had candidates. Others, hakuna, in Kiswahili, meaning nothing.
Thank you. First, I want to appreciate, you see, it is in our value system as Alliance from National Transformation that treat people with respect and dignity. But of course, we cannot run away from, because now it is now inculcated in us that even when you find a very challenging language used, you must get back to what you are, because we want to build a country which works for everybody.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think the information by my senior colleague is stale. In a court pronounced, the Supreme Court, in a Paul Kawanga Semogera and Zakarum versus Attorney General, that NRM was a one-party state. The movement was a one-party state. So I want to leave it at that. You can Google about it. She has a smartphone. Two, when it comes to the masks, you also got me wrong. You see, we're not talking about a candidate. You see, I saw the president saying we are going to give out masks. We have the capacity to give out masks to everybody. They even set condition standards on what type of mask should be put. and either to exclude other people who would produce masks, to say the mask must take this form, it must follow this criteria, it must, so we knew they had the proper prescription of what a mask is. So when we passed money in Parliament, over 80 billion, for them to go and buy masks, we expected these masks to have been distributed, even in my constituency, for example. You understand? But it was 88 billion, 80 years, for the masks. What I said I found in my constituency, that under the standard operating procedure, which we are respecting, they said that it was a requirement for the voters to keep social distance, to wash their hands, to have masks as voters.
Yeah.
And the presiding officer would only allow those who had masks to join the line. That's what they were telling us, look, that please let us buy masks. They want us to have masks in the line.
Yeah.
So that's why we're asking that, where are the government masks, which were given out? Okay. And the NRM people who had come to pass knew that actually they hadn't given out the masks, and they had given money and they had the masks. So at the end of the day, even this is what they're actually boasting about. One would say that they were in that form because they provided the people who are supporting them with the masks at the polling position, and this excluded others who would not have masks. This is what I'm saying. And I'm not saying it for purposes of this election. I'm saying that you see in the future, the organizers of these elections must take all those things into account.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's go for a break right now, and when we come back, we are going to be discussing our last topic, which is inside the NRM's SEC elections and what's going on around the country currently. But the opinion poll question is, does the virtual holding of NRM's national activities mean that the country is ready for scientific elections? Let's go for that last break now, and when we come back, we will go into that topic, our last topic of this evening. Keep it behind the headlines.
The Electoral Commission shall display the lists of all persons who have been recommended for deletion from the National Voters Register for a period of 10 days. That is from 11th to 20th March 2020 at each parish or ward headquarters throughout Uganda. The purpose of this display is to enable any person who may have been wrongly recommended for deletion to raise an objection to the parish or ward tribunal. The parish or ward tribunal shall consider and make the final decision concerning recommendations for inclusion, deletions, or correction made by the public. A clean register is a cornerstone for conducting peaceful, free, fair, and credible elections. Announced by the Electoral Commission.
With support from United Nations Development Programme, UNDP.
Welcome back to this last segment. This is Behind the Headlines here at UBC, and our guest, the Honorable Captain Francis Edward Babu, together with Honorable Paul Mwiro, and we have panelists, Mr. Gobi Ramadan, together with Honorable Margaret Muhanga, who is joining us from through Zoom. Let me ask my technical team to show me the to bring for us the poll question responses so that we can start with them. The poll question is, does the virtual holding of NRM's national activities mean Uganda is ready for scientific elections? The comments, please. On Twitter says, let us first define that term scientific. It's just becoming a word everybody is throwing around. The last 2 days of elections are the complete opposite. Next, Akelo Jen Nure says, we honestly have to agree that the trend has moved digital, and it is one basic tool one has to adopt and adapt to for effectiveness and, yes, We haven't come to this. We haven't come this far to be unread and ready for the scientific programs. I believe it should, and it is possible. Thank you, Akelogen. The third one is from Tony Kent Chaze. He says, no. What is a scientific approach? He asks. If we can define that, then we can answer the question well. Imagine a scientific approach, but a non-scientific polling day. No way. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tony Kent. Noble say Ugandans are not ready at all. Let's start with that. Honorable Babu, more are coming. Just those four, what do they make for us?
Just define it. They say we should define it.
We define the scientific?
Yeah. Defining
Okay.
science is basically a systematic enterprise that builds and organizes knowledge in a form of a testable explanation and prediction about the universe. Now, here, we're talking about a scientific, it's a system that is going to help us to achieve our goals. And the outcome is what we want to see, whether we can get, and we did not go into it because we wanted it.
Yeah.
There is something called COVID-19.
It's real.
It's real, and by the way, I, this morning, took one of my guards who had been tested positive to Mulago on a pickup. And
Was he with you yesterday?
Sorry?
Was he with you?
No. He's a guard on the door, not in my car. And we
Are you not supposed to be quarantined, Honorable?
No, they checked us because they
Okay.
checked all of us, and he was found to be positive, the guy on the door. So we've taken him to the hospital. But what was outside in the receiving tent, you cannot believe it. So let Ugandans not think that COVID is not there. I want, in fact, after they found him, we're doing another test tomorrow. All right? So the whole thing is, because of COVID, we were told, fine, we can have elections because our constitution says so after 5 years. There's only one item that would be removed, the gathering of too many people in a rally. All right? Just one. But the rest you can use.
Okay. Good. I want all of us to first make comments on those, to respond to those comments that came from the viewers. Honorable Mwiru, your view on them.
Well, to me, when you talk,
I think only one said that we can do it, actually.
yeah, you see,
Out of the four so far.
out of the four, of course, my senior colleague here, I think he is in the media. He owns a radio station just as I do. If you want to know whether we can go virtual and we can, whether the same can be practiced by other political organizations, then you also have to look at their capacity to go virtual in terms of financial, then also limitation in terms of coverage. Of course, given the circumstance and given the fact that we had agreed that there is COVID in the country, and we agreed that we should have elections, I think going virtual would be okay. But then the question would be, what is the capacity of other players or other competitors to have the same access to state media, to have same access to private media, and what is the coverage? That's where I would see a problem, because for a party which has been in power for over 35 years, which has been fused with the state, they will take advantage, because if you go to the villages, you find that some of the, actually, I just saw it during these elections, the GSOs think they are part of NRM. Because I was calling the GSO to tell them, look, you need to find a solution. Because I was talking to my boss, I said, look, we are not in the register, so please don't interfere with the process. So when I was talking to the DSO, he was understanding. The DSO thought he was part of the process. So you see that fusion.
Yeah.
For them, they may have no problem with it, but as the majority has said, we need to examine it, because at the end of the day, if you don't reach out to the people, then you can boast of an election.
So the possible abuse.
The possible abuse.
Ramadan, what people are saying, the possible abuse, the fears,
one,
the reach.
the virtual election has made the already unleveled ground more unleveled, in the sense that, number one, it's not very affordable to those who don't have
Capacity.
access to resources, because it's a very expensive venture. Two, it's going to restrict a number of people from participating in the democratic process, which they would have liked to get engaged in. And then three, I really believe that we had no option now. We had to have an election in the middle of the pandemic because you don't know when you should wait until when. There is no timetable for it. At first we thought it would be a 6 months or 1 year thing. Now we are thinking, medium term, 2 to 3 years. But that said, I really don't see the small and younger parties being able to do what NRM is capable of doing. First, the NRM has already the advantage of being the ones in power. They have access to all these resources, and also they have the goodwill of those who are going to even also fund
service providers,
fund them and support them as a way of also serving their own interests. So I don't think that this is going to be very helpful in supporting especially the younger parties like ANT and others.
Honorable Margaret Muhanga.
Yes.
We were polling views from our audience on the possibility of virtual elections. What's your view? You have seen, you as delegates conference, you participated yesterday, and from an observant point of view, what looked like a successful carrying out of the delegates conference. Do you think this means that we are ready for that scientific organizing of the elections?
I think yesterday's voting was quite different because we were voting on Zoom. It's not the election we're going to have where people have to gather in one place. But what I think is that really we should have this election. We have no way out. We are between a rock and a hard place. Postponing this election means going back to change the constitution. We've got to change a lot of rules. And so we have to have the election. But what I think is that most people who are coming for this election are adults. Everybody who is going to vote is above 18. So people should know how to control themselves. Because it's not about masks. Sometimes I don't even want to keep saying, okay, government masks have not come. But COVID has been here for the last 4 months. Or 5, what have we been using? So people have been told to use handkerchiefs. Anything that is double-clothed can save you from COVID. So we should use anything in our possession to get to the polling stations and be done away with this election. The only thing is that there is an election today, there is another one after 2 days, and another one. People get election fatigue.
So the mask is
now
just
NRM elections.
The mask is just an excuse.
Yes, a mask is one of the things we must do. We must social distance. We must wash our hands. We must avoid touching our eyes, our ears, and our nose and mouth. Some of these things are completely a little difficult to do. Somehow you will rub your nose when you do not intend to. Sometimes it's a reflex. It's a reflex action. Okay. Which you cannot stop.
Okay.
But by and large, we really have to have this election. Okay. There is no way out of it. The only problem I fear most is this NRM election.
Okay,
because
thanks a lot.
The NRM election is for lining up. And if we are going to line up without social distance, it's more dangerous than anything else I can talk about.
Okay, let's touch on the real discussion. The SEC. What type of, are you convinced, you were a member, Honorable Babu, are you convinced that we are going to get the most qualifying people, your colleagues, to the SEC? Why did some people, I had some people saying, Honorable Babu is worth going to the last point. Why did you throw it off, the opportunity?
Not throw it off. I think we better get this thing straight. We have a party.
Yeah.
And as a party member, there are certain things we discuss. And there are many things we can discuss and find solutions to some of the problems in our party, including balancing it. I did not want to come out. I want to tell you frankly. But when I was called by the SEC requesting the chairman to call me, I went as a good candidate, as a good cadre of the party. And when I reached there, I was given a bigger picture and certain drifts I did not actually anticipate, which I did not even think about. But when it was given to me for the sake of our party and for the sake of strengthening our party, I actually personally
bought in.
Me personally, I told them, with what you have told me, I am stepping out. Nobody asked me to step out, not even the chairperson. Actually, the chairperson enumerated everything. I got a drift I had not seen before, and I accepted. Unfortunately,
you want to share with us that drift?
Oh, there are many. Drift. For example,
one or two important.
It will be very difficult. Some of them are very, very, very personal, personal to our party. You know, I believe in this. What is for the bedroom is for the bedroom. What is for the sitting room is for the sitting room. But here we are outside the sitting room. So let us get the point clear. I wanted certain things changed in the party. We've been talking about building a party, and those things are very dear to me. My request to the party was that everything I wanted to do should be done by the party.
Tell us one or two things that we could say were your vision to do once you were elected, if you were elected a SEC member.
For example,
what did you want to change?
I wanted our members who are not happy with the party, our members, because we've got a lot of them, who are not happy. Like I would like to bring Muiru back into the party. I wanted the party to call all these people, if possible, and try and find out what we could do to make them strengthen the party again, because some of them are very strong. And there is also a habit within our party. There is a small clique that fights our strong cadres. They use all sorts of methods.
Is that what we call the infighting, or is that what we call the mafia?
No, no, it's not an infighting. It's a small clique that thinks they can get rid of our strong pillars. And I want those pillars back into the party. Why? Because I think we are going in a landscape where competition is going to become stiff. And for that reason, I would like these members to come back, and not only that, we should have a better method of getting new members in the party. I'll give you an example. They'll get somebody, this clique. It's a very small clique. Unfortunately, it's not the whole party. It's so small that it annoys me.
But it is more powerful than the party?
No, no, no. They use methods.
If it can
they use
bring
methods,
down
they use methods which make them feel that they are strong, but they are not. So what they do, they go and get even an opposition to fight a member of the party. They would even finance an opposition. And I will give you an example. There was somebody in Kampala here who they financed to fight a member of our party. And they paid huge sums of money. And these people are so disgusting that they are spoiling our party. Now, I want them to come, even with these people.
So how are you going to pass that? Because now, in your position, the position you were contesting for, today we confirmed through the television that the first vice chairperson is now unopposed, Haji Chigongo.
Yeah.
And how are you now going to pass your vision to him and to the chairman and to the SEC and eventually to the party that will lead this reform?
One of the requests I gave the chairman in writing, I want these things done by whoever goes in that, because that position, by the way, is the chairman of the disciplinary committee of NRM.
The first vice.
Yes. And if that discipline is not brought in our party, right, that means there is something wrong with that post. And the next thing that I want, and I'm very serious about this, if they don't do it, when we have a national conference, I shall move a vote of no confidence. I am insisting that party is that point is extremely important. That disciplinary group should bring the discipline back in our party and build our party so that it is strong. And by the way, I am not leaving the party. I want the party to become stronger. I want us to win these next elections. The youth did us good. I want us to have the same number when you go for the main elections. Now, if I want the same number, I want a strong party. I want all our members to be brought back on board. I want new members to come on board. I want them to know that this is a good party. Not the color. The party can therefore go out there and win election, and we should field good candidates.
Okay.
Not favored candidates by this small clique of ungrateful members of our party.
Honorable Mwiru, you are, of course, an interested observer. As the Alliance for National Transformation, as a member, you are looking at your main competitor, the NRM. You know, they are fighting, jostling for power and all that, and what you have had your colleague, Honorable Babu, saying. What's your view of the SEC going in?
First, I get a shy of relief that maybe I will have to invite my senior colleague for a cup of tea. Because I see...
You want to learn more?
I see it just needs to be talked to. It may be wasting a lot of energy in the wrong direction. You see, it reminds me of company law. You see, there are what we call majority shareholders, minority shareholders in a company. When there is operation of the minority shareholder, you see, the majority shareholders normally set conditions for the AGMs, which are very difficult. They can even say, we shall sit in Guru or in Irira, in a very expensive hotel for our AGM. And they invite the minority shareholder who has no capacity to go and attend the meeting. Normally, they set a lot of conditions in a very expensive hotel where you must have resided there. They may make it for a week. But the first days, you need to go discuss other irrelevant issues, which actually don't go to the point.
We are going to meet in Hilton,
Nairobi. So the minority shareholders normally fall off. So what I see in this is that my good friend, the Honorable Francis Babu, is a minority shareholder who is oppressed in the NRM. And whereas it's good intentioned, that he has a conflict with the system, meaning that to correct him must overhaul the system. Other people have a misunderstanding which they can solve administratively.
Are you saying you don't believe in self-correction?
No. You see, self-correction can exist. Of course, you can see instances. This is what I've even been telling some of our colleagues, that you see why we are so glued to like transforming this country, like for instance, Alliance, because we believe that we have a conflict with some of the things which are taking place in the country and cannot be solved by a revolution. Whereas other people think they have a misunderstanding. That's why, like when he said that he thought to lure me into joining the NRM, that would only work if I had a misunderstanding with NRM, but I have a conflict. So it has to be to overhaul the entire system. But having said that, you see, you cannot give what you don't have. I'm not one of those who can sit on the side and laugh because NRM is stifling democracy. Therefore, that is good for us as the opposition. I don't share that view. Because you see, the more you stifle NRM as a political party, you offload the problems to the country. You understand? That's why someone was complaining to me. I've been seeing them using a chopper, state chopper, to do internal politics, internal campaigns. Then someone was saying, please question what budget is that? They're actually running on that, engaging into the internal processes. So in summary, I'm saying, because you want NRM or another political party to organize well, so they give good leadership to a country. When I see the parties being owned by that, whenever you try to come out, they will have to take you to the Godfather and say, hello, you need to get out. We have no way I'm taking this old man. You see, let this old man stay in this position. There are very many rooms in my room. Because at the end of the day, my brother, senior colleague, has been a victim to that. Because he has been looking at the bigger picture. Because the politics of today favors the full figures, the butcher man, the what. So you, Babu, on the first Babu, you have no space in the body politics of President Museveni of now. Yeah, because you see, the new normal, because the new normal, being adopted by the NRM party, you have no space. Because I can bet now, even when you have looked at the bigger picture, say, for the good of the party, if to let him, let's see our old man continue. In anticipation that maybe there will be a deployment befitting of a patriot, like you have said, in the interest of my party, let me leave it at that.
Okay. Time
will come when they're looking to add numbers. So they will have to look for certain younger man out there. Either he's a musician, a comedian, to come and make numbers. And you may even be unlucky. But the remaining sort, they may say, we need now a Muslim. And maybe when you are Francis. But they say maybe we need maybe a woman when you are a man. So at the end of the day, you may end up being the victim in all this. But I wish you well as an organization, when you get things right, there's something to give to the country. That's why at times, like when you keep on talking of NRM, for me I know from a fact that there's nothing which President Museveni is going to do in the 5 years, which he didn't do in the 35 years.
Okay, good. I need to bring in Mr. Ramadan, but also now, since we are coming to a close, also use the opportunity to start asking your question, but make a comment on what you have observed going in for the SEC discussion, arising, especially following from what Honorable Babu and Honorable Mwiru have said, in 1 minute, and then you ask them, the guest, your questions.
Good time has elapsed. I didn't have a lot to say about this. I'm not a politician, but listening to Honorable Mwiru, it makes a lot of sense on using that analogy of the company law, minority and majority shareholders.
The conference in Abuja.
Yes, but then
in Hilton.
Then you think of the alternative. How does the alternative look like? Because at least in FDC, maybe they have practiced the alternative. They allowed the internal democracy to take place. They allowed everybody to stand against another, and the results have also come out from there.
They split.
They have split. Because, you know, when Besigye competed with Mutu, I told my good friends whom I have, and they are subscribing to that party, that this party will never be the same again. I told them. Because the kind of campaign I saw there.
It was vigorous.
For the two camps. And the Honorable Mwiru was in one of those camps.
He was in the side on the
and
in the
you
camp
can
of
see where he has ended up, and a number of others. Maybe that's why the NRM they want to practice it differently, in order to.
The NRM is solving their problem by avoiding it.
Absolutely, to manage.
Because avoiding a problem is a solution.
By ring fencing certain positions, and they say these ones, please don't tamper here, because they're going to cause problems to the party. And in FDC, they think it should be free for all. You know, seriously, I don't think in a fledgling kind of democracy like ours, you will allow everything to happen in the way you would want them to. It's not free for all. Democracy is free, but not free for all. And
is that what we call controlled democracy?
You need to have some natural leaders. And I think there are some natural leaders in these parties where you know that when that one is not there, there might be a fault line here. And for that matter, that's how they ended up there. So
you ask them the questions.
I will ask them the questions quickly. I will start with the Honorable Babu. Honorable Babu, having experienced what you experienced in SEC and so on, do you think that a political party being dominant and very powerful for quite a long time in a country with a democracy which is just shaping up, do you think this could be having an impact on the outcome in the form of the growth of the democracy of the country?
Yes, I actually think so. And remember earlier on I was talking about the movement system. Had we remained with that, probably would have built now to a certain level where these multi-parties would automatically, it would automatically come. I now think that a dominant party like Chama cha Mapinduzi in Tanzania, like NRM in Uganda, I think if they build and this is where I'm still think that this dominant party must set a good example, and that was the question. If they must set a good example, there must be honesty, they must create trust, and they must be respected that what they are saying is the bond of their word. If they don't do that, and this is where the problem is, and that's what I wanted changed. If you cannot create confidence with a charismatic leader, then you are in a lot of problems.
Okay, good.
You are a very, very interesting politician. Do you realize, perhaps as politicians, that maybe Ugandans fear change? And for that matter, don't you think you are carrying out experiments whose results you already have?
Well, I want to speak from the perspective from Alliance for National Transformation. In our opinion, our party is not an election party. We are not informed to participate in the next election. But you see, that's why it is called Alliance for National Transformation. First, we think we need to change the mindset of the way people look at politics, the people look at politicians in the country. We think the Ugandans must understand that they need to trust the leaders. And as a result, I know many people fear change because of the challenges which have been associated with change and because of the propaganda which has been propagated for a long time by the regime, that when there is change, there will be turmoil and there will be war. That's why we have concentrated consciously and very deliberately to show that we want to build a country which works for everybody. That's why when you look at our value system of respect and dignity and actually accommodating each other, because we believe everybody has a stake in this country. And if you try to change the culture and change the type of politics we do in the country, even the NRM people, like my brother here, Honorable Babu, will know that once we take power, we shall just have to rehabilitate some of you and work together. Because this is our country. There's nowhere you will go. Okay. We just have to take you to our rehabilitation school, rehabilitate you, and we move our country ahead.
Good. On Zoom, Honorable Margaret Muhanga, we are into the last point of the show. Make a comment very quickly on SEC, what's going on, and then you ask your question to the guests.
Yeah, tomorrow we are going to vote for SEC members. We are voting from districts, and like that, those other years when we used to congregate in Nambole. This time, due to COVID, we shall vote from our districts. And then I first of all want to thank the Honorable Paul Mwiru for giving credence to the NRM and also for predicting, though indirectly, that the NRM will win the next elections, and for wishing us well, that once we carry out good elections, that means we shall have good people, and then we shall lead the country well. He's very well aware that the NRM is going to lead the country for the next 5 years. Thank you very much, the Honorable Paul Mwiru, even if you were indirect in your assertion. Except tomorrow, I am sure we shall get good people, good leaders, that will take our party to the next level, because it's from SEC that we all look up to for the next leaders of the NRM, maybe the next president, the next prime minister. We look up to our SEC because that's the topmost organ of our party. Now, my question to the Honorable Paul Mwiru. Are you going to field a presidential candidate? It's like I heard you may not. Will you field a presidential candidate? And if so, who will it be? Will you yield enough candidates in most of the elective areas or elective areas like it should be in Uganda, or you don't have the capacity yet? Now, my other question goes to the Honorable Francis Babu. I also would like to thank him for giving wisdom to the country, guiding many people into the false start, giving us a lot of hope for the future. But I'd like to ask him as an elder, what do you think will be your next course of action since you pulled out from the NRM elections? Are you going for any other seat, or are you going to just be an advisor in your own right?
Thank you. Honorable Mwiru, start us, and then we end with the Honorable
Thank
Babu
you. I think I will answer my colleague with an analogy. To Alliance for National Transformation, an election is like a market day. Because if you have gone to this public auction market, even those without money come and say, yes, you are selling a good shoe.
Window shopping.
In case you, today I don't have money, but on your normal days, where are you found? And in some instances, those who come and mark and then ask about the good shoe, they call and say, please, can you deliver 5 pairs of those shoes? Similar to this election, we are, of course, having a discussion. And I think by next week, we shall know how we are going to, if we participate in this election, because that question must be answered. How is it going to contribute to the process of building Alliance for National Transformation? Because we are builders, and we are long-distance runners. So we are alive to the fact that we must cooperate with other players, but we must take a decision internally. Of course, we have a presidential candidate in the names of General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, because we didn't want the election to come when we have not even finished the process. So we started by identifying a candidate, then we're going to take a decision internally to that. So that even if we are to engage other colleagues, we have someone whom we are saying, this is our presidential candidate. Where is your presidential candidate? So that when we sit on the round table, we look at how best would our organization would benefit from fielding a candidate or not benefit. Because as a younger party, we must ask ourselves, have we built capacity? Have we built a strong political organization which we put behind our candidate to win? If that's not the case, then the question would be, what are the options around us? We are very much open to options with the other forces of change in this country. But of course, in case we did, just know that an election will be like a market day, where we can go and then get the contact of those people, saying people who come to us and pick our good ideas. Who knows? After the election, after the 6 months, they may say, hey, Honorable Mwanga, where are you? Were you the agent of ANT? Please, I want your card. I understood your policy positions on education, on health, on agriculture, and even you give a semblance of hope to every Ugandan that actually this country is full of us.
Okay. Thank you. Finally, Honorable Babu, your response. Where are you going? What is your
My
next
sister, I'd like to thank you very much. I'm going to go back to the party and become even more active than before. I must fight this propaganda which is being spread by certain people, including my friend here, Mwiru. And one of them, he says he's going to rehabilitate me. It's going to be the other way around. I'm going to rehabilitate him. The other one is that when I become a member of this party, I want this party to become stronger. So that is going to be one of my biggest, that's for the party. For the other side, I'm standing for the elders that you've just passed.
Oh, you're going to stand for elders?
That's right.
Kampala or Central?
No, it's called Central because I think that's what it is, because there are 5. One is for women and the other one is 4. So I'll stand for Central, for the elders, so that I can go to that parliament and form another house.
So you have used this platform to campaign?
No.
It's okay, it's okay. One of the privileges.
I'd like to thank UBC.
You have declared formally?
I've declared, yes.
Yeah.
No, I've already been nominated in the party.
Oh.
Oh, yes. Oh,
good.
Yes.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you very much, madam.
We wish you good luck, and thanks a lot. Margaret Muhanga is a journalist, so you can see the type of question she asked that led to Honorable Babu. That's a breaking story, and
I didn't realize it was breaking.
no, many people were asking. I have my elder brother was actually also asking because he believes so much in you, and he wanted to know where you would be going, and so that's a good question. Thanks so much, Honorable Margaret. Once a journalist, always one, and to the people of Buraya, let them not make a mistake in the coming primary elections. Thanks a lot, Honorable Babu and Honorable Mwiru. It's a privilege to have you here. Of course, it's your maiden appearances, and but we thank you so much that you found time, your precious time that you should be using for your other mobilization work. Of course, thanks a lot to Ramadan Gobi for being, you know, so active on this forum, on this Behind the Headlines, and knowing that many of your students follow you. I have one of them in my house, so they follow you a lot, and they like your ideas. Thanks to Muhanga on Zoom from Fort Portal City, and from the team here. My thanks also to the technical team that ensures that this show is made possible. It's late in the night. The technical team, my producer Ivan, and the rest of the camera persons, and all the team here, you know, that keep us going. The social media team, thanks a lot. Until next week, God bless you. Take care, keep safe. Corona exists, and ensure that you social distance. Ensure that you only meet people if you really must. And if you meet people, especially strangers, ensure that you take care. Put on your masks, don't drop it, and let's ensure that we follow the guidelines put in place by Ministry of Health, by government. It's all meant to protect you, to protect us, to protect the country, so that we try to minimize as much as possible and limit the damage to human life. Let's keep the country safe. Let God bless Uganda. Bye-bye, good night. God bless you all.
What's wrong with being stuck? To lose your tug over